Responsibility. Now, everybody has their own intake on responsibility. I have my very own, where, small story, I basically had to take care of my little brothers and everything. I also had an older brother. Did he take care of us? Only when he needed to. But for the most part, I was looking out for both of my younger siblings. And usually with my parents, they would always come to me and say, like, did this happen? Did this happen? Did this happen? Why didn't this happen? Why didn't this happen? So I just felt like it was all just laid out on me. So it's just my responsibility to take care of them. But as an older sibling, that's just how you feel. You have that pressure on you, like set upon you from the start. I don't think, well, I can't really speak for anybody, but for a younger sibling, or if you have no siblings, you'd almost never feel that pressure. Like everything is not really given to you, but you don't really have to take care of anybody. That doesn't mean you don't have to take care of anything, or like an animal, or like a pet. But it's just the pressure. Like, let's just say you're small, wandering around the store. It's the older sibling's responsibility to look after them. Obviously, technically, it is straight up on the parents, but from the parents, they kind of burden you with that, and that's a lot to take in. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's especially at like a young age, you're automatically forced to grow up, and I don't want to say you lose your childhood entirely. Depends really on who you are and how much responsibility you had to look after this person. But then there's self responsibility as well. Everything that you do, everything that you want to do, you know. For example, a small example, which a lot of people do, and I know a lot of people do, when you call out for work because you want to do something else, you know, or just ditch school because you want to go do something else. That was a matter of your choice, you know? Like, let's just say you take a day off because you want to go to Disneyland. Now, sometimes it's okay to do that. You need a break, go for it. I say go for it, especially if you had long days, like incredibly amount of study time that you're just like forced upon your head, and you don't really have time for that day. But even if it's just once in a while, once every 6 months, once every 3 months, go for it. Like, you should have the right to treat yourself at some point, because you can't just keep overburdening yourself. You know, you have to have that release, that spread for joy. And yet we all just take in a whole bunch of things that we can't control, a whole bunch of pressure that we have upon ourselves, especially as older siblings. But if you are a single child, it's, I want to say, slightly worse. Maybe not as worse because you have the relief of not taking care of anybody else, but you also don't have anybody else to guide you. So it's really, really, really difficult to go out into the world and experience everything for the first time. But also, if you are experiencing and like working on your studies, going to work every day, never missing a punch, trying to never miss a punch, and trying to actually make yourself a better person, a better human being, but you're not looking for yourself, it's okay to call out. As long as you call out, I think it's fine. Because they can look up somebody else. Or if not, they're just going to have to ride through it, push through it, because you need that day off. Yes, it is going to suck for them. You might feel guilty for actually doing it. But if it's for your own benefit, go for it. Obviously, like I said, once every 3 months, once every 6 months, not going to kill anybody. Consistently, that would be the source of your irresponsibility. Because responsibility lies not just on yourself. It lies a lot on the people around you. A lot. Your coworkers, your friends, and at that point, your own education. Like, if you're just taking days off to take days off, you're missing the whole class period. You're missing everything at that point. That is all on you. If you know you're going to do it and you know you need it, like I said, one day isn't going to kill you. You might get behind, but you can pick it up fairly quickly. But if you call out or not show up to school 3 days in a row for like a week, that's all on you. And that's not what I'm encouraging anybody to do. One day to relax your mind, to relax yourself is fine. But a week, I don't think so. Not yet, at least, especially if you're not in the position to do it. One day at a time. Now, there is the difficulty of balance in one's life, where you want to grow up and be your own person. I understand that completely. I'm trying to do that myself right now. And it's difficult. The hard part is finding the balance in your life. And it's between friends, it's between work, it's between school, it's between a lot of things, really. But one of the greatest movies that actually showed this, and I'm going to quote a lot of stuff in this episode, but one of the greatest movies of all time, I want to say, and personally, it affected me a lot. But Spider-Man 2, or I guess Spider-Man in general, like the original one with Tobey Maguire. But specifically the second one, great movie. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Highly, highly recommend it. But it's not about the superhero life. It's not about that. It's about, I want to say, it takes a huge part on your responsibility, but it takes a bigger part in your choices, how they affect the world. And it really shows to you that a balanced life is a very, very difficult one to live. And it really does show how much you, as one person, just one person, affect a whole bunch of different things. For example, there's many scenes in that where he gives up to be Spider-Man. And at that point, the city's in trouble. But why? He wants to live his own life. And who can blame him? Like, eventually, some people just snap. Some people give up. Some people, it's too much for one person to hold. It's too much responsibility for one person to hold, because you have to think of yourself. But also, if you don't, you feel terrible for not helping, because you know you could do better. And that's the difficult part, because we all want what's best for the world, but also what's best for you. It has a huge deeper meaning than what most people just take it as, which is just a superhero movie. But what I found great about movies like that is the hidden and much deeper meaning when you can actually relate to the person, especially when you're around his age, when you get to that time. Now, I'm not also going to say that you should completely ignore the outside world, the people that actually do need help. Now, one of the quotes is, if you could do good things for good people, then you have the moral obligation to do those things. And that's what's at stake in life. It's not a choice, but responsibility. And when it comes to that, it's much difficult to find your balance. Not to say that it has a huge toll on your mind, but only if you are stable enough should you follow that, and only if you can should you follow that. And that does not mean it has to be out of a huge, you're like a multimillionaire and then you have to give money out to everybody who is not a multimillionaire. That's not showing responsibility. That's not showing care. No. Because there's a huge difference in just giving everything away and teaching somebody the aspect of responsibility. Now, if you have money and you want to donate to the less fortunate, go for it. That's your choice. But it is also your choice to let them figure things out on their own, because they need to. And it's difficult. I was going to say self-made, but almost nobody is self-made. No. But let's just say you're in your 20s, right? Let's just say you're in your 20s or late teens, right? It really, I want to say that is the time that you're figuring yourself out. You're really figuring out what life is, what your roads to take are, your paths, your choices, and the things you have to do to accomplish those things. the challenges you have to face across everything. I just, I can't really, I can't really explain how difficult it is to go on that path, because everybody has their own path, you know? Everybody has their own trail that they have to follow. You can't really, you can guide people, if anything. You can guide people, but you can't really, or you shouldn't really tell them where to go. Tell them that this is the place you need to be. No. People need to experience it for themselves, and people need to own up to their mistakes with everything that they make along the way. You've been through it. I understand that you don't want anybody else to go through it. I say that you should let people go through some of it, help them out when needed, guide them, but not completely take everything away, like all their problems. Do not take away all their problems as much as you want them to. Don't. Some people need to learn how to fend for themselves, and that's what makes people grow. You can't take care of everybody. Simple as that. But you can take care of the people who care about you. You can't take care of the people you care about. And accepting help is always okay. There's a dark saying in the world that is semi-true, where everybody looks after themselves. You have to look up after yourself. Now that is true. You have to take care of yourself. Don't get me wrong. But when you are stable, when you are fine, when you're trying to help out other people, you have to make sure, absolutely sure, that you are, one, mentally prepared to take care of people. And secondly, you have to know that it's your responsibility to take care of people. I'm not saying that you should go out, become a biologist, and, cure COVID or anything. No. But actually, that's a great example. Just imagine if the people who are looking up this disease just one day say, you know what, people aren't listening, I give up. People just don't want to get cured. People aren't listening, so I give up. That's what we don't want. And it's our responsibility to look up to them and trust them. Obviously, it's difficult to trust somebody that you don't know, but also they worked for this, and they know they did. It's their responsibility to take care of us, because they can and they will. But they won't if we just keep throwing it back in their face. Now, humanly, it is the right thing to do, but emotionally, it will also affect them, especially the negative feedback. That's why most people are just like quitting. They're over it. Nurses, doctors, they're just over it. It's hard to take care of this many people when people don't want to listen. And like I said, if you're in your 20s, this is the moment to experience everything. You're intaking so much right now of how the world is, people's views, different perspectives. That's a lot to take in. And especially if you're experiencing it all on your own. It's much, much, much more difficult, because you don't know which path to choose. You don't know who's right. You don't know who's wrong. Obviously, you can go ahead and trust like half the media, trust whatever you read on the internet, trust like your friend, your neighbor next door. You have your own choices to trust whoever the hell you want. Does that mean you should actually trust everything that you read, everything that you see? I say no, because everything, is a lie. But also, that's literally what makes, it's what makes you see everything. What are the lies? What are the truths? And usually people tend to go with the majority. But there's always going to be skeptics. There's always going to be people who just don't know what to do. People who don't choose a side. But there's also the logical side, where you should trust this, where you should actually do this, should get vaccinated, because, it's a moral thing to do. It's your responsibility to help other people. If you only think of yourself, I just think that's complete irresponsible. The thing is that when you are in your 20s, it really does determine the person you're going to be for the rest of your life. And it shows, because at that point, there is no changing. Well, there's always changing. I take that back. However, for the most part, you've set your viewpoints. is what I'm trying to say. Everything you see in your 20s, everything you experience in your 20s is what you gather, what you collect, and I believe what you will kind of keep at your core, kind of your own viewpoints. And I see that a lot within my family, and that's growing. And like for my father, he's stuck in his viewpoints and he won't change. He will never understand my level of what this generation's going through and what I see because of what he went through and what he saw back in his day. Same thing with my mother. She's more of an open-minded person than she will view our points, but that's only because she did spend more time with us. There's a difference, but that will be a story for a different time. Back to people. Now, am I saying to just go out and help every single person that you can who you are technically above? No. I'm not saying to like you should go fly to a different country who's poor or help them out with some money issues. No. That is a matter of choice to some extent, but it's a responsibility that you also don't need. Unless that's exactly what you're working on, you have the money. If you want to do it, go for it. Like, no one's really going to stop you. But what I mean, start small. Help out your sibling, help out your parent, help out somebody. Now, don't do that all the time. If you're not in a directly mental state, don't go for it. First, you have to heal yourself before you can help other people. It's a very difficult thing to do, especially when you're under that much pressure. That it's like most of the older siblings, the amount of pressure you have is the amount that kind of guides you through life. This is what I meant at the beginning of this episode, where I said, as the older sibling, you're kind of tended to, or your intention is to help the little ones. Yes, obviously you bully them. I'm not going to lie. All siblings do that. But what I'm saying is you still care, you still have that love, you still have that feeling for them, that you don't want anything terrible, you don't want anything bad to happen to them. So your responsibility is to guide them. You might do that with your friends. I know I do. I guide them, I try to help them out. But at one point, you just have to say, you have to do this on your own. I cannot help you with this because you need to experience it. That is a good sense of responsibility. When you know that they have to do it on their own, you cannot be the one doing every single thing because it takes a whole toll on you. They will take advantage of you and you will not let them learn anything. They might feel abandoned. They kind of are. But no. They just have to accept the fact that they have to do it. They are the ones that are taking the burden now. But it's not bad because you are still there only if they really need you. They have to learn how to fend for themselves. Don't let them take advantage of you. Don't let them be like, well, you're the one that always does this. You're the one that always helps me out. Why aren't you helping me out now? Why do you hate me? You know? Words like that, fighting words that'll get them angry, but you want to break. You could explain to them that, like, I just want to break. I can't do this right now. Sometimes they might listen, sometimes they might not. It really depends on your family or your friends. But, you know, it has to come from you. You have to get that direct focus. Once your mind is clear, then you can go semi-help them, guide them. Don't do everything for them. And, like, sometimes just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Just because you can help everybody in the world doesn't mean you should. It's hard to take upon all that and think of it as your responsibility, when really the world in itself needs to heal together rather than you just carrying it all on your shoulders. Because at that point, like I said, you're basically like a reliance. They rely on you. You're the reliable one. And because of that, you'll just take all the problems and they'll just hand you everything. At some point, you just might break. You can't really take upon everything all at once. Take a break, relax. Especially if you're the older sibling. I understand that completely. I always say the older sibling, even though I'm not the oldest, I'm still an older sibling. But it's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot to take in. And then you still have to do everything that you want to do, everything that you have to do. You know, if you want to go to school, go to school. If you want to go to work, go to work. If you want to keep a job, if you want to keep advancing, keep doing everything. And yet, whenever you ask for help, who's going to be there? Sometimes people are, sometimes people aren't. It really, really does depend on the kind of person you are. That's when they say, look out just for yourself to an extent. Yes, when you are stable, when you can help yourself, it's difficult to just let everything kind of unravel, I want to say, because you don't know what's going to happen if you don't help this person. You don't know what's going to happen if you really take a break because your mind can't handle it, you know? Everybody has a different pace. You cannot compare yourself to anybody else. You cannot take on burdens too much for you to handle. Especially, you cannot live up to expectations. That's a huge one. Do not live up to anybody's expectations, not even your own. You have to do everything with what you can do. Prepare yourself for what you can do. Because the first thing everybody does that I see almost never works is set yourself a goal. I understand the whole purpose of setting yourself a goal. And then you're trying to meet that goal. For example, like let's just say an easy one. I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week, take like 2 days off. That's a nice goal to have. And then you just back out after like day 3. Or you only do it for 3 weeks and then you're done. Something comes up, you know. It's difficult whenever you set a goal like that. Mentally just say, I will do this today. And just say today, don't think about tomorrow. Do not think about the future. Relax. You're in the present, you're in the moment. Whenever you want to accomplish something, setting a goal should come a little later. Not too much later, but a little later. Get yourself conditioned with anything. With school, if you're like, I'm going to take this many credits this semester. Okay. I say prep. Take the courses that you want. Look at the classes you selected. I'm not saying go full blown out and like study everything. No. I'm just saying when you have your time and your own time, check on what it is you're going to be learning about. People give out syllabuses. But if, for example, you don't know if the professor is going to be good or bad, look at them, all right? Look at what you're going to study. Just a quick guide, a quick feel to know what you're going to get into. It might be intimidating, but at least you can mentally prepare for what's coming. It's the same thing for physical people, for like I said, people who are going to the gym. Try it out a few times. Do not go over the amount that you think. Don't let your ego get in the way just because somebody can, lift more than you. Always start with the smallest, even if it's just because you want to try everything out. Don't let anybody at all tell you what you should be doing, what you have to do. That all comes later. And what I mean by later is what is a person who actually has experience trying to help you out. But when you're starting off, start off at your own pace, at your own mindset. That way you yourself can determine whether you like what you're doing or that you hate it. That way, if you do end up liking it, you can continue. That's when you set your goal. And that's when you start asking for the help. Because you know you want this and you need to be lifted up. And that's what makes you grow. That's what really gets you to rise. If you don't like it and you're just doing it just for, because you have to, it's a little different. You still have to have the same mindset. You still have to go, prepare yourself, even though you're going to hate it. But you have to push through and you have to force yourself to push through. Nobody can force yourself to push through. Maybe physically, like somebody's got like a coach or something like that. But mentally, you're almost all alone. Yes, you have like support. Sometimes your parents like yell at you to push your studies and stuff. But I want to say it's a little different on how they should push your studies. Instead of saying you have to do this because this. No, no, no. I would say, or at least the way I would parent would be, do you want this? This is how badly you want this. Okay. Then find out something that you like about this. Or if you hate all of it completely, then just make sure you get the actual points. And once you get the actual points, that'll just be enough. You just got to get through it enough to get through it. But it all really just depends on you. How much do you want to take in? How much do you want to relax? Everybody thinks we got a time limit. And honestly, I've been in my 20s for basically 5 years, 25, going on 26. But you have the pace, you have the time. Take it. If you need more time, take more damn time. Don't meet anybody's expectations that you have to graduate by the time you're 22, 23, 24. No. If you need to graduate by the time you're 30, you take your fucking damn time. If you want to be physically fit and you just don't have the time to work out, just pace it upon yourself to do specific routines. If you want to be a professional chef, save money enough for culinary school, take your damn time, practice at home, do whatever you can. If you want to go ahead and be like a world famous person, celebrities and like fame, all that connected to you, it's going to take work. It's going to take effort. You need critical feedback. You need to know what you're doing wrong. You need your haters to support you. And that's what a lot of people don't realize is that people who do hate, people who comment like, oh, that person's ugly, that person doesn't know what they're doing, that person's just all for show. Take that feedback and see where it's going to get you. See what is wrong with yourself and what other people view you as wrong as. You need to take negative criticism and see where it leads you to. Because that is the purpose when it comes to you wanting to be famous. If you're just famous just for becoming famous, then you don't know what you're getting into. At that point, you might just want out. Some people get out, some people don't. But at the end of the day, it is all on you. Take what you know and turn it into something that you want to do. That's how you find your passion. Now, life in general is not fair. It is not fair whatsoever. Like, you could be on the greatest road ever, and everything might go to hell from that point on. You might think you're finally back up on your feet, and it'll just keep pushing you back down. Most of us feel that way. Most people I've talked to, they do. And it's annoying. It's one of the most annoying things that I've ever had to come across with everyone. Almost everyone has been like pummeled to the ground, and eventually you just kind of don't want to do anything anymore. But guess what? Because almost everybody has that point, you have to get up. You can't just lay down there. One time, on a side note, small story, I had a friend who got slammed to the ground. Two things happened. I was in high school, basically. I didn't get in a fight, but no, he got slammed to the ground by, I think it was a basketball player or something. And I was a freshman. And not only did he got slammed to the ground, he also failed like 2 tests that day, right? And the moment his dad comes and picks him up, right? I hear them just talking. He's just like, why'd you let him do that? Basically. He's just like, oh, because he just picked me up. He just kind of threw me down. Like, because my friend was stupid. He was running up to him, took off his hat, and just kind of ran. It was a pretty stupid move, not going to lie. But I don't want to say he got what he deserved, but, people just being people, whenever their aggression, they don't know how to take it out, especially at that age. Like, you're, just stupid. You don't know the consequences. You don't know the meaning of consequences. So he did that. His father looked at him and just said, so what are you going to do about it? And, as a person just sitting on the side, you're like, you have many options here. Some people think that means, oh, you're going to fight him, you know? Some people think that means just like, okay, he pinned me down. He showed me who's, the alpha male, the person on top, the person who's superior. Some people say it's like, well, I'm down here. I can just trip him. I can just fight him. I can just beat him up. No. Instead, he was just, what's it called? Although that was my friend's response. He's like, what, you wanted me to fight him? His dad literally just said, who the fuck gave you that idea? I said, what are you going to do about it? I can give you options. Do you want the options? He's like, are you going to tell me about it? Do you want me to talk to him about it? Are you going to tell a teacher? Are you going to tell the principal? What are you going to do about it? There's a huge difference in that when you think that way. When you view your options, what do you have? It's like, hey, this person picked me up, pinned me down. Okay, but why? Now you get to the source of it. Why? Because I took his hat. And I was just like, okay. So, yes, that was on you. He shouldn't have reacted that way. But in the other perspective, he knew that if he didn't react that way, if he didn't pin you to the ground and he didn't basically show your place, you would have kept doing it, kept laughing it off. That's his perspective. And then in the other perspective, he's just like, I got hurt. What's it called? I was just messing around. I was just like, having my own fun. See, in both cases, they're wrong. Because one acted out of stupidity, which was my friend, and the other acted out of aggression. He could have just said, just give me my hat back, I don't have time for this. Much more peaceful manner. It really does just depend on the person you are and your response, but always analyze everything that you're given through or that you're going through. View your options, because I can guarantee you there are always more than one. That doesn't mean that you should go for straight up the negative. It doesn't mean you should just go straight up for the fight, But view everything you possibly have. You don't always have to be the submissive one either. Sometimes you have to be the aggressive one and just like voice what you think. And I guarantee you that at first, if you're like a very passive person, it's going to really suck to stand up to people because you're not used to it. But at the same time, if somebody's picking on somebody else and you can stop it, and you can, go for it. It's going to suck, especially if they fight back aggressively. But always start off with words if you can. I say, always start off with words. Now, I don't know about other places, worldwide or anything, how things are. Everything's completely different outside the States. Like, I go into Mexico and stuff, and they have a whole different definition of their own responsibility, basically, because at that point, everybody is looking out straight up for themselves, their own property, trying not to get robbed and everything. But at the same time, I'm talking to the people who have the responsibility of burden. Like, all of a sudden, something happens to your parents, to your friends, to something. You can obviously help some way, somehow, even if it's just being there for somebody. And like I always say, prepare yourself first. Yourself matters first, and then you can help somebody out. Always try to think about yourself first in the scenario, and it just has to be a quick thought. Am I okay? Can I do this? Can I help this person? Do I have time to help this person? If the answer is yes, go for it. Should I help this person because of what they're going through? Am I okay? Yes, I'm mentally okay. I can go help this person. A quick thought. But if you just say like, this is too much for me, I can't do this right now. Your responsibility from that point on is to do two things. One, tell them that like, I don't know how to help. I can't help. I'm sorry. But also try to find somebody else who you think can help. And if that person can't, doesn't answer, doesn't respond, do not feel bad because you couldn't help. You shouldn't be asked to help at an instant's moment. No. Helping others really, really is just a matter of a position, I want to say. What position are you in to help anybody else? Are your bones breaking? Are you shattering? Are you emotionally destroyed? No. Always, always help others whenever you are okay to help. Oh, responsibility is not easy. And why I brought up the Mexico thing is just because everything that I viewed from them, and like, I want to say like not even living there, just like visiting in a sense, is just everybody only looks after their own kids. From what I see, to some extent, yeah, you get the stereotypical drunken people, but for the most part, they want what's best for their children. That's almost everywhere, though. The difference in Mexico is mostly that they'll do a lot. They'll do a lot to benefit their children. They will beat them. They will care for them. They will overly care for them. So in a matter of speaking, you get both. But no, they're good people down there. But they will like do almost anything. If they want, they would rob you just so their kids can get a better education or something, or themselves. But here in the US, it's much difficult to rob somebody, but nonetheless, people would try to steal something just for their children or just for themselves. Now, at that point, if you do get robbed, obviously go to the police. Report it, Do something that'll help catch somebody else, I think. That way, you're not letting it happen to anybody else. Because a lot of people just say, oh, it's reported, but nothing happens. Nothing ever happens. The cops never catch anybody. Excuse me. The way it is, though, is that as soon as you report something, it is documented. And once it's documented, it is documented in your area that this happened in this specific location. We know who it happened to. Thank you for reporting us. If another thing happens again, it's an easier trail to track somebody. Nobody's just going to admit that they're going to rob something, but unless you're a dumbass robber. But anyway, if they can get a trail, they caught the person. It takes time, which for some reason a lot of people don't have patience for. It takes time to do anything in life. Anything really. Even like I said, it's something as hard as, or I guess as easy as catching a thief. It is hard. It is hard to just be patient, I guess. Take your time with everything, with life in general. Travel, do something exciting, and always have time for your family. Because I can guarantee you that they don't know the real you, do they? Unless you're probably maybe a small family, you can tell them everything. But as far as I know, and most people don't really talk to their siblings. People don't really talk to their parents about what they're going through. I can understand the reason why. Although it shouldn't be that way. We always want your own personal space, your own little personal bubble. Eventually, you can get through that bubble and connect. But till that time, that's all on you and your family. But all the times you think of just honesty, fairness, and justice, all those times people counted on you to have courage, to take care of them, to take care of yourself, and to take care of your dreams out into the world. Everybody has their own way of viewing things. Everybody has their own way of doing things. And you have your own way to look into your own life and see what you can do to make things better for yourself. Do you need to cut out people? Do you need to be there for people? What do you want to do? What can you do to help these people? Mental state is always where it starts. I didn't hear too much of it growing up, but it really, really does take a huge toll on people just for trying to be too responsible. That doesn't mean be unresponsible either. No. I still believe that if you can help somebody out, help them out. But if you don't have that courage, if you don't have that mental state, keep calm and take it within yourself to heal yourself first. I will always say that. Always heal yourself first. I might not follow it all the way through, but always, always heal yourself first. You know, I keep coming back to the oldest sibling because I know how much pressure you guys are under. Or, in my case, like I said, the middle sibling, or like the middle older sibling. Everybody always went to me to see what's going on. And whenever I failed, it was a huge toll on my mind. I didn't even know it at the time, but yeah, it still affects me to this day. I was the responsible one. And if I wasn't responsible, I would get shit for it. So I don't want that to happen to anybody else. And at that point, you just have to talk it out. The first thing you got to do is talk it out if you are holding too much responsibility. Talk it out with your friends, talk it out with people, talk it out with your parents, your family. Tell them that you're holding on too much. You just want a little release. Take the burden onto a different sibling. Take the burden onto a different friend. Don't take the burden on at all. Sometimes it's tough to admit that you can't do it. Sometimes it's just tough to say, like, hey, I really can't do it. Like, I honestly can't. But I can guarantee you can find a way, or guide yourself, make a way, prep yourself to make that happen for yourself. It might take 2 or 3 months, but you could say, I can do this for my mental state, prepare for that time, and then finally have that time. Life might not make it go that way, but you never know which way life can get you. Don't over prepare, because like I said, you don't know which way it's going to go, but prepare nonetheless. Don't take too much that you can handle. Don't take everybody's problems all at once. If you can, take it one at a time. One at a time. Especially with that. One at a time. Stop comparing yourself to, like, I want to be the best superhero that people can be, basically. Because people look up to me. I'm like basically their superhero. I'm like their what people want to be. I am on top of this pillar, this statue, and I need to live up to that expectation. No, that is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is not to be at the top. If anything, this is what I say, your responsibility is to help others get there. But not just straight up put them up there. Help them get there. And at that point, everybody else will probably put you on top, but you have to immediately shut them down. You're like, no, I have my own problems too. I just have to learn how to deal with them. Maybe if you explain your problems a little bit, not burden them with it all, but just a little bit so they understand where you're coming from, they'll probably hold back a little bit. Understanding is a big, big deal when it comes to responsibility because it works both ways. Their responsibility towards you and your responsibility towards them. Their respect in general. Because if they can respect your own duties, your own responsibilities, everything that you're going through, everything that you have to do, they'll, for the most part, let it go. They'll know, like, okay, I can't overwhelm this person too much anymore. I have to let them deal with their things, and I have to grow and deal with my things. You know? Always ask yourself that question, especially if you're at a broken state. What am I going to do about it? What am I going to do about it? First thing you should do is let it out. If you need to cry, cry. It doesn't matter. The thing is that if you just let yourself cry all the time, you're not going to get anywhere. So what are you going to do about it? That is the question you got to ask yourself every single time. What am I going to do about it? Because everybody's always comparing everything. Like the rich people, they always say like, oh, I don't have to worry about anything. But no, even rich people themselves have to worry about things, you know, becoming bankrupt, losing out of a business. Like, yes, they have money, but that doesn't mean that they are out of responsibilities completely. That, I want to say, really just depends if you're completely self-made Well, obviously nobody's completely self-made. Everybody has to have some kind of help. But what I'm just saying is, don't compare yourself to the rich. If you're not rich, you're not rich. You're not rich yet, maybe. You can work yourself towards it. There's always a way. It really just depends on how much you're willing to go and how much you're willing to sacrifice. And sometimes it's not worth it. Sometimes it is. Other times it's not. Like, personally, I don't need like a freaking Lambo or a Tesla or anything to drive. I'm just fine with just a regular car that can just get me from point A to point B. Even if I had money, personally, I'd probably still keep my car. That's just me. Everybody else can do whatever they want. But I don't see the purpose in too much money. Now, does that mean whether they control the system? That is a whole different story. But just for the small sake right now, don't compare yourself to the rich or to the people who have power. No. For them, of course, you're going to feel weak. Of course, you're going to feel belittled. You're always going to be downed. But don't ever be ashamed of who you are, where you came from, what you're doing here. Now, you matter, whether you think of it or not. Don't let you mentally, like, don't let yourself mentally tell yourself that you can't do it. It's not going to work. You have to tell yourself, this is where I am. This is what I'm doing. This is what I have to do. This is where I want to go. So let's do it. Let's find a way out there. Let's overcome those obstacles. Because burden is never going to go away. Your responsibilities are almost never going to go away unless you guide yourself and you come across those challenges. You face them head on. You can run away for a little bit, but eventually you're going to have to face them head on by yourself, because sometimes people get overwhelmed with other people's problems and they back out of their lives. So you have to do it yourself. You have to learn from it. If you need help, somebody might help you for a little bit, help guide you, but don't expect them to always be there, or don't expect them to, just because I helped this person so many times, they'll help me just once. You should never expect something from somebody else. It's difficult. It's difficult, especially when you don't when that trust you just feel is broken, because after everything you sacrificed, then it all comes tumbling down. I've been there. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't trust people, but don't over trust. Don't expect things is what I'm saying. No. Have people help you. Everybody needs help. When you have that help, everybody grows, not just you. Sometimes I straight up believe one of the greatest quotes, I think it's from Albert Einstein. He said, sometimes the best way to help yourself is to help somebody else, you know? So the more we help people in general, like, people will thrive. People will learn from other people. When people join forces, that's when we can see what we can do, the things that we can create, you know? Because people believe in us. All you need is somebody to believe in you so you can believe in yourself. You might not believe in yourself, but as long as somebody else is believing in you and somebody's encouraging you to do something, you can completely go miles and miles beyond from your own expectations, beyond your own limitations. You'll be surprised where you're at. People join forces. People fight to survive. That's what really gets to us. It's what makes us human. That's what makes us worthy. And that's what really defines who we are as a species. People working together. You know, it's difficult to see people not working together. But when we do, we can create something completely new. Trust, bonding. You got to see these things from the positive sides. Just because you can do it alone doesn't mean you should. I mean, from my experience, I've fought to protect everyone. I've also survived because they've helped me. And that's what we do. We help each other live. That's what it means to be human. And that's like a debt I can never repay. Everybody has something that's worth living for. Helping people is a huge responsibility. Take that as you wish. Help others, help themselves, help yourself first. And always, always, always remember to not take everything all at once. Relax, you know? Don't burden yourself. Why? Why would you do that though? Relax is all I'm trying to say. Take your time, breathe, and just let yourself be you. Go out and have fun. Do something that makes you happy. That's all for today, guys. I will see you next week. And don't ever give up.